Richard Wolff, who is the world's most popular Marxian economist, was on the Michael Brook show, and he was on. They had the live streamed, I think, the first hour, and normally they have the post game locked only for patrons. And they decided to unlock the second portion for people to be able to watch. Now, if you guys recall, yesterday I did a video about how Jordan Peterson made a rebuttal to Richard Wolff after Richard Wolff had challenged him, because Jordan Peterson talks a lot about Marxism. He talks a lot about communism. He talks a lot about, Stalin and a lot of different things like that. It's sort of odd because, I just don't really see how that's something that's not, already been said so much. So like this guy who's supposed to be the transcendent, thinker of our time is still talking about Stalinist USSR. And there's still tankies out there. They're pretty small in number, and I mean, they are scumbags, but it's not even close to really any fraction or percentage of serious people. Now, this was interesting because Jordan Peterson was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and he was asked by Joe Rogan, have you ever had a debate with a Marxist? And Jordan Peterson's response was, no, Marxists won't debate me. And so right after that, a bunch of Marxists came out and said, hey, we'll debate you. I believe Zero Books was the one who first came out, and then it was Richard Wolff. And Richard Wolff is really well known. I mean, if you really know anything about economics, you know the name Richard Wolff, just like you know the name Peter Schiff and other people like that. So I'm a pretty big fan of Richard Wolff. I think he explains stuff pretty well. I'm not far left, but like some of the things he says I definitely agree with. Probably a lot. But here's what you're going to see. So he was on the Michael Brook show. He's going to talk about how Jordan Peterson backed out. And it's pretty cowardly, so check it out.
Please, I would love to hear a story about the weeping professor.
You know that there was recently a conference.
We were both there.
Right. In the booming metropolis of Boise, Idaho.
Much love to Boise.
Yes.
Boise DSA, and Andrew.
And Boise, that's right. And yes. Boise State University hosted this. And originally when I got called, I don't know how they contacted you, Michael, but when they called me, it was to invite me to debate Jordan Peterson. And now I have to be very honest and tell you that when they invited me, I had no idea who that was. And I never
What a better mental ecology you have.
It just... So I did what all good Americans do. I went right to my Google and looked up Jordan Peterson. And, I'm not competent, as I've said, to talk about the psychology that he does. I'm married to a psychologist. She has taught me many things. But, it's not my thing. But occasionally he would veer off of whatever he was talking about, how young men should pull themselves up by whatever it is they pull. Yeah, I have to be careful. Anyway, when he does that, he veers off and talks about Marxism suddenly.
Right.
It kind of erupts into his discourse. And then he has a simple equation, Marxism, Stalin.
Right.
Marxism equals Stalin. Stalin is awful. Therefore, it's a mystery to him, he says this, why anybody who isn't perverted would be interested in Marxism. So I'm dumbfounded. I mean, I know this was hot stuff in the 50s and 60s at the height of the Cold War, this sort of reasoning passed in a society that was so hysterically frightened about something that it worked at that level of sophistication. But that has all died out. The Cold War isn't here, and that level of Cold War discourse, I thought, had faded with it. Good riddance. But not with Jordan Peterson. He must have discovered it, I don't know, early last week, and it's very exciting to him. It's new, it's fresh, and he deals with it as if he just figured it out and is helping us all to recognize this colossal insight he had after one beer. So
one cider.
So I said, okay, this is going to be kind of easy. This is sort of childish stuff, and I will say that because
it is.
What are you going to say? and then, so I agreed. I agreed to do the debate. I did eventually go out there when we met there.
You gave a great talk. You spoke about Jordan Peterson for about
I did.
5 minutes.
Yes.
And then you went
because
on to
several
more important
weeks,
things.
several weeks after I accepted, which was I think during the summertime or something like that, I got called back by them, and they told me that the debate was off because Mr. Peterson had, I believe, if I understood the story correctly, increased his fee and quite considerably, and so the university couldn't do that. It's a state university, so they can't do that. And so the debate was off, and clearly the young people who called me were, let me be polite, agitated by this course of events, and so invited me to come out by my lonesome and give a talk in place of the debate that was now off. But Jordan Peterson, whatever his qualifications as a psychologist may be, I don't know, but when it comes to Marxism, this is the worst, silly, dismissive caricature that I've seen in many a year. Used to be common,
right?
But nowadays, people, the kind of people who used to do that easily, they know somehow that doesn't fly anymore, and so they don't do it. But
kind of embarrassing.
Mr. Peterson, he doesn't get it, so he runs it up the flagpole and hopes.
I understand why those students were upset because, I mean, not to rag on Idaho because, you know, the Boise Broncos have an interesting football team, but you debating Jordan Peterson would have been probably the most amazing thing that's happened in that state all year. That would be the #1 event, I think.
I feel like it would be like, I can't think of the proper analogy.
Peterson would have been embarrassed.
Peterson would have been totally embarrassed.
I don't know. The people who talk like that,
yeah.
The people who talk like that, I mean, I hope so. That would be good.
No,
if
he
were
wouldn't
embarrassed,
be embarrassed, but there would be a good general public
He wouldn't have been able to keep up on economics.
Yeah, he wouldn't have been able to keep up on anything other than.
But you know, to be fair to the guy, and I don't know him, so it's not that I'm trying to be nice. I was struck, honestly, by how seriously many of those young people in the audience had obviously taken his work. That they had been reading and watching videos of Jordan Peterson. He's getting their attention.
He certainly I think he's
they made a conference
very well to alienation.
Yeah, so as I said when I did my previous video on Tommy Lahren and Candace Owens, I don't think that if someone is to not accept a debate, it's something where you take points away from them or call them an idiot or a moron or scared to debate or something like that, because debates are, at the end of the day, sort of a political sport. However, debates between people who are actually educated are a bit different. They're not as much sport, and they're a little bit more legitimate. It's like watching like Noam Chomsky and Alan Dershowitz, go at it like every year. But if Jordan Peterson had not made the remark saying, A, he said that Marxists wouldn't debate him, and then B, you accept a debate, and then he just raised his fee for how much he requires to have had to do it. And it's pretty obvious the reason why he raised the fee. And here's the reason why, okay? It's because anybody who has two brain cells to rub together knows that Richard Wolff would pound. When I say pound, I mean pound Jordan Peterson into the ground on the issue of Marxism. Richard Wolff, obviously he knows his stuff. Does anybody actually think that Jordan Peterson... And we saw Jordan Peterson's rebuttal. It was total trash. Complete garbage. He used really recycled dumb points. The one that really made me like, okay, you're such a moron, was where he said like the 1% of the world thing. That's a very common talking point, and I don't understand it. Like, we have borders. What do you mean? I think he said like arbitrary lines. Dude, we have borders. There are different nations. Every country has a different set of circumstances and a different set of life, everything. So in the United States and in other countries, there are different there are differences in the way their economic system works, etc., etc. So it's not like, oh, you're just drawing arbitrary lines to say that, in the United States, there's an insanely ridiculous wealth inequality where it's unbelievable. I mean, it's insane. We know that Jeff Bezos is at something like $130 billion in net worth right now, and he's in a league of his own amongst rich people. I don't think Buffett or Gates is above 100 now. So he's spread out massively in terms of where he is in the level of being rich, insanely rich, and that's the point that we're at now. And when you make that argument, you just make yourself look like a doofus. Basically, the basis of his argument was that dumb, hilariously stupid point. And then on top of that, it was the thing where it's like, oh yeah, sure, you're for the poor. Yeah, I kind of think he is, buddy. Like, he definitely is more than you are. I mean, he's advocating for... I've always been in favor of worker co-ops. I'm not in favor of the government mandating co-ops, but... there's something I've been listening to some of Richard Wolff's stuff recently, and there's something interesting that he said on the Jimmy Dore show. Check it out.
Function the way we do. One example. In Germany, there's a law. The German word is Mitbestimmung. It means participating in the decision. Here's what the law in Germany says. The law was passed in 1976, so this is not new. If you're an enterprise in Germany with more than 2,000 workers, 1/2 the members of the board of directors in that company have to be elected by the workers. It's the law. That's unthinkable in the United States.
That is unthinkable in the United States.
That's the law. If you have less than 2,000 workers, I think it's 50 to 2,000, 1/3 of the members of the board of directors have to be elected by the workers. And Germany is an example of a country that's been doing real well in recent
Economically,
years.
sure.
So putting the workers on the board there didn't end the system, didn't erupt the system, didn't collapse it, none of it. They did better than we did for most of the last decade since the crash. So I would argue that many in Europe have figured out ways to limit the damage that capitalism has done.
Well, shit, I didn't know about that. Did you guys? I definitely didn't know that. I mean, that seems like a pretty reasonable thing to do. He said that there's a law in Germany, and I looked it up. It's true. I looked it up just to make sure. And yeah, it is true. In Germany, if a company has over 2,000 workers, it has to have half of its board elected by the workers. I don't see why that's even controversial. And basically what Richard Wolff says is he's like, Jeff Bezos' labor isn't the reason why Jeff Bezos is making money right now. He's just sitting there chilling while his stocks just keep rising, while the people who are actually working at Amazon, that's their labor actually making the stock prices go up. So it's not fair if those are the people who are working, who are becoming, they are able to qualify for public welfare, while Jeff Bezos was $130 billion of net worth. That is insane. And you think it's Jeff Bezos' labor that's making the stocks go up like that? Fuck no, it's not. It's the people working there. It's their hard labor that is making those numbers go up. It's not Jeff Bezos. He's not doing anything. He's chilling. I mean, that's just the truth about it. And so I totally understand why you'd want worker co-ops, and I'm definitely down with worker co-ops. Now, this isn't something interesting that I want to bring up. There's a grocery store called Winco. Winco's not a worker co-op, but it is a majority employee owned, so basically employees get stock. I've been to their grocery stores. Their groceries are cheaper than any other grocery store I've ever been to by a lot. So that's not a worker co-op, but it's closer to a worker co-op than is, anything else. But apparently there's some pretty big worker co-ops. I think there's one in somewhere in New York. I think Brooklyn that's got 40K employees. I think one of the top 10 businesses in Spain is a co-op. I think it's called, I want to say Dragonas, but I don't think that's it. I forgot. It's something like that. It's a company in Spain that's a worker co-op. And I mean, I'm definitely for worker co-ops. And I think that the co-determination law that they have in Germany, I'm totally for passing a law like that in the United States. If a company has 2K workers or more, half your board has to be elected by the workers. I don't even see why that's controversial even in the slightest. And what's interesting is Richard Wolff also says that basically our property tax is it's rigged in a sense because people are paying property taxes on their homes, but people who have property in stock, they're not getting taxed for that, even though that's intangible property, which rises and rises and rises and rises. And we definitely need a Wall Street speculation tax. It is ridiculous that we don't have one in place. And Richard Wolff also explains, I think he said something like 2/3 of the stock is owned by the 1%. We need to stop using the 1% number. It's actually the 0.01% now. That's how bad our income inequality is getting, to the point where now it's the 0.01% that's actually owning a crap ton of money, a disproportionate amount of money, which is unbelievably ridiculous. So I'm still a capitalist, but I think we can I definitely support worker co-ops for sure. And I think that a lot of the things that Richard Wolff says make sense. I think they make sense. And I think that I don't see why you wouldn't support worker co-ops. And I definitely am in support of a worker co-determination law like they have over in Germany, because I just think it's common sense. Like, I don't think that that's really, like, a company with that many people should have its board at least somewhat elected by the workers. That's how it should be. And it's really unfair that you have a company like Amazon where the people's hard-earned labor, their hard labor, where they're getting paid jack shit for, while Jeff Bezos, his stocks keep rising and he's making crap tons of money, and he's now at like $130 or $120 billion in net worth, while his workers are qualifying for public welfare. His workers are qualifying for welfare while they're the ones actually bringing in the money. They're the ones who are actually making the Amazon stock rise. Not Jeff Bezos. He ain't doing nothing to do that. That's the workers. That's them working doing that. So back to the whole Jordan Peterson thing. Jordan Peterson, if you're going to say that Marxists won't debate you, and then they challenge you, you better debate them. Now, if you had never said that, I'm not going to call you out for that, because, again, oftentimes, debates are sort of sport. Although I want to make it clear that when you start to get with like educated debates, like serious educated debates, like a Noman Dershowitz type of thing, there's still that element to it, but it's a lot different in that scenario than it is normally we're speaking, where it's like Ben Shapiro versus whoever the fuck, who's a pundit or whatever. It's a lot different. But even then, I don't think you have to just debate everybody. But Peterson is definitely scared to debate. Ever since Dillahunty, he is not down. He is scared, man. He is scared. He does not want to do any more debates after that manhandling that he got from Matt Dillahunty.